What's going on YouTube? Got another knife review here for you. Today we're going to be looking at the Jake Hoback. This is the Midtech Kwaiback. I've completely customized this knife to my liking for the most part. I think I might still do an acid stonewash eventually on this blade, but it's kind of got a dark stonewash on here already, so I might not touch it any further. I have it dialed in, tuned to the flipping action where I really like it, rock solid lock up and everything. And I'll talk a little bit about it if I remember in this review. But if you guys have been following my channel for all these years, I think I started in November of 2011. But as I was getting into my knife collecting, I had the chance to pick up a Jake Hoback, one of the original Alpha Hunter collaborations, the A10, I think is what it was called then still. No, it was called the Alpha Terminator or something like that. So I was taken by that knife. I love that knife. I think I got that knife before I even got a Hinder, if I'm not mistaken. But I really thought it looked like a Hinder, and it was even more overbuilt than a Hinder. And ever since then, I've just been in love with Jake Hoback's knives. And Jake is just an awesome guy. Had the chance to work with him a number of times. He built me this knife, the A10, to replace the other A10 because there were some defects in it. And so he built me this knife, and then he built me a matching A15, which I recently just traded off. I'm not a little bit, I'm actually really bummed about it, but I did get a really nice knife in that trade, so that's where I'm not regretting it that much, but I am regretting not having my A15 anymore. But anyway, long story short, then I had the chance to get on the books for the Midtech Kwaiback. Given that there was no way that I was able to get on the books again after he had just gained so much popularity, with his Kwaibacks. When the Midtech Kwaiback came out, I was like, this is awesome, because I've always wanted a Kwaiback. And so to be able to get the Midtech Kwaiback, that whole overbuilt feel with, the Kwaiback size, and the way that the blade sits in the handle, I just thought it was one of the greatest designs. I had a Lucas Burnley custom Kwaiken a long time ago, and it was one of my favorite knives, but eventually it's one that I traded off. I never carried it because it was so nice. So to have an overbuilt Kwaiken style knife, that's overbuilt like a Hoback. I was in this huge overbuilt phase. It was a no-brainer to get one of these knives. Really quick, just talking about the specs of the knife. The original knife comes in just the raw titanium. Comes with a kind of a spring, almost looks like a Hinder style clip. It's got that little cutaway here, so it's got the two pronged design for the clip, and then the normal pivot was a large flathead pivot that you could kind of just tighten with a dime. And Jake made it so that it could be very user friendly and user serviceable as well. It features ball bearing system inside. It's got a 190 thousandths thick blade of S35 VN steel, so good steel. Not necessarily like a hard beater steel, but it's a good EDC steel. And then as well, it features Jake's HRD, Hoback rolling detent, inside the blade as well. So overall package and aesthetics of this knife are really great. Very, honestly, from what I've seen, very closely modeled, to the custom Kwaibacks. When I see the Midtech and some of my friends' Instagrams versus, the custom Kwaibacks that they own, it looks very similar. Other than the fact that the custom Kwaiback has a backspacer in there. And that's one thing that I would love to get for this knife, to kind of just complete it as a as customizable mid-tech as possible. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. He's got his Bible verse inscription, which I love. John chapter 10, verse 11 talks about the good shepherd and the sheep, and how he lays down his life for the sheep. So Jake is a Christian brother of mine, and so I really love supporting him in that way as well. So what else is there? Just a really quick thing, just a size comparison with some of my other knives here. Here's the Diskin Vulcan Flipper. Got the Overbuilt beast of the Direware Solo V5 Warncliffe. And then the little teeny tiny baby right here, the Chris Reeve Large 21 Sebenza. So overall, of all the mid-tech knives that I own, this, as well as the Avo from Brad Southard, I mean, completely different knives. You can see here. I mean, other than the colors, they're similar. Very different purposes. This is a absolute hard use capable knife. Thick, able to pry. You just see how thick the tip is on this knife. It's not going to be as hard use as, say, the actual A10, with 3V steel, but it's somewhat comparable. I mean, I think this is like almost 210 or 200 thou thick 3V steel on the A10. But at 190 thou thick, and this is, Jake did an amazing job grinding this knife, or sharpening this knife. It is incredibly sharp for as thick of a blade as it is. Slices really well through very thin media. But, it's not necessarily a slicer, as much as the Avo is, with this really thin blade stock and, just very incredibly thin secondary bevel on that cutting edge. So, it's one that sits well in your pocket because that blade disappears so easily in here. But at the same time, it's pretty thick as well. And I'm not saying that to knock the knife at all, because I love it. I love the fact that it's thick, and I really went through this hard use phase for quite a while, and I still like them a lot. That's why I'm not getting rid of this knife. But I think I was saying also earlier, as I was getting into the review, I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly. There were a lot of things. I worked a lot on this knife. I obviously did a lot of all the anodization on this knife to get it to where I wanted it to be. But it's a knife that you really have to dial in. This pivot has to be set just right. I feel like, for it to be set inside this cutout on the titanium. In terms of tightening the pivot, you can definitely over tighten it, and it's not going to be as smooth. The rolling detent, for me, like, I had to adjust it just right to where the frame is flush with the rest of the frame. The frame lock, rather, is completely flush with the frame. And then I had to Loctite that HRD system in there. So otherwise it would roll out, it would spin out a lot, and you'd have to frequently adjust it and get all the right tools to do that. But right now, as it is, flips out awesome. I mean, it's completely, it just falls down, not necessarily on its own weight, but you can just shake it down, and it's incredibly smooth. So you can just see as it's going down, it just kind of bounces out of its frame like that sometimes. So, but overall, it's just a great representation of, I think, of what a real Kwaiken would be. And I've just heard that the custom Kwaikens are absolutely amazing. So one of these days, if I ever get a chance to pull the trigger on a custom Kwaiken, I don't think I would hesitate at all to get one. So overall, I love Jake's work. I think his midtech was one of the best ones out of that entire lot that came out, whether it was the birch or whether it was even the VCP, that kind of started it all, or the Graham, or the Burning Horizon from Mosier and Kendrick. This was by far, not by far, but to me was one of the best made ones, in my opinion. And that part of it might have to do with the fact that Jake, because the original CNC company, I think screwed up a lot of the things. He had to do a lot of finish work, just on the pieces, not just putting the knife together, but even on the pieces. I felt like he had to do a lot of his own in-house work, and so this is almost like a custom knife. Some of the pieces were cut out, but to have to redo some of the work that was kind of poorly done by the CNC machine shop, it's kind of unfortunate, but for us it's kind of nice because it's like, man, there's even more custom handwork into this knife. So yeah, overall the Midtech Kwaiback I think is a great knife. If you ever get the chance to get one, pull the trigger. I think it's worth the money, for what all the midtechs are commanding. I think it makes a lot of sense. So great knife, just incredibly ergonomic, straight handles. This is just a hard, man, this is a hard beater knife, and I've put it through its paces, whether it's working in the garage or whatnot. I'm not afraid to get this knife dirty. So yeah, anyway, awesome knife from Jake. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next vid. All right, take care, guys. Bye.